So there is this like there's this YouTuber that uh what's their actual YouTube, right? Like Emily Sondering, I think. It's Sondering Studio, but like Emily Sondering is the main person. I think Sondering Emily. Okay. Uh Basically, they've released one game on Steam, I think, and then they have other itch.io stuff, and they're working on, which by the way, go wishlist Lily's World. They're awesome. Um, they're working on this game, which is like gonna be their first big sort of solo release, whereas their other releases were kind of not solo, and they also, they weren't like there were a bunch of people. So this is like, I don't think this one's solo either, but it's very much like based on their ideas and their life, and I think they are mainly the person developing it. They might have some help. I'm not 100% sure, but I followed them a bunch, and one comment that I've always seen on their stuff as well, and I saw this comment like a long time ago on one of their things, was like, basically, like, it was on Instagram where they were promoting like Lily's World, right? They were promoting Lily's World XD, and the comment was essentially along the line of like, "Where's the game?" And then somebody replied like, "There is no game." They said there is no game, and she doesn't know how to make one just because like they're an influencer, and they're just and they like, everybody thinks that they're kind of like influencing, which I think is a really, really poor take. Just generally, like, I think it's a really poor take. I think honestly, like, the reason most people in game dev kind of end up, and you see this with like, business owners and entrepreneurs and whatever, and like, LinkedIn people, which I'm just cringing thinking that, right? LinkedIn people, you see this in all these places. The reason for that is like, if it was possible. Oh, also, this is a big thing in like the music industry as well, right? It's a huge thing in the music industry as well, where if you sort of want your song or your game or your whatever, if you want that to be successful, there is really no way to do it these days than to, sort of have an audience that you've kind of built on your own. And even like musicians specifically like say this a bunch, because like every single musician, even the musicians that are kind of hired by like actual, by a record label or something or whatever, they are still told that like, you gotta go and be famous on TikTok. I think that's the TikTok logo. It looks very similar to like the music thing, but yeah, they gotta go and be famous on TikTok. And it's kind of the same with like every industry now. So the reason most sort of game devs, especially like solo indie devs that like wouldn't have a like any other way to sort of promote their game, the reason they kind of end up doing YouTube is because they need an audience, right? They need a way to actually play their games. They need a way for people to actually know about their games, right? And there are some sort of game dev YouTubers that have started to say that like, oh, just do Steam. Steam is enough and all this, right? I agree to that. Partly I do not agree to it, because just doing Steam without an audience means you kind of get zero wish lists initially. You get zero wish lists initially when Steam wouldn't push your game out right away. And then with zero wish lists, when your game launches, you get zero buys on day one, right? You get zero buys on day one, and then eventually maybe someone might find your game. But when they do find your game, because you had zero wish lists and you had zero sort of buys on day one, you kind of have zero reviews. And so even if like they think the game is like, super intriguing, they might end up not even buying it, even though Steam does do the thing where it does try to match sort of people. Like Steam does a very good thing, and this I do want to give them credit for. It tries to match people with lesser known games that they might be interested in based on their library of games. Steam's actually really tries to do that a lot, but at the same time, a user, when they go to buy a game, they want to sort of see, you know, they want to see, well, one thing a user wants to always see is like a trailer, especially with like smaller games, a trailer that shows gameplay right away, so they can kind of see of like, okay, this is what the game actually is and plays like. But two, they would need some sort of like, you know, they would need some sort of like backing of like, okay, other people enjoyed this game, so I will probably also enjoy this game. And that is harder to come by if you can't have people sort of already vouching for you. And to do that, you kind of need an audience, and that is kind of why a lot of people tend to, especially if they don't have like a publisher or a marketing budget or anything, a lot of people tend to go to YouTube to kind of find that audience and lead them to their game. So it's kind of a really terrible take, and it's kind of really unfair to, you know, look at someone like Emily here, who's about to release who's about to release an indie horror game essentially, and they're making a bunch of videos about horror games to gain an audience of people who like horror games, so that those people will go and play their game. And that's completely fair. That's a completely fair way to go about it. So it's pretty, you know, it's a pretty bad take to go to this person who probably doesn't have a marketing budget and say stuff like, oh my god, there is no game and you're just trying to be an influencer, when they're clearly not, right? They are clearly very much trying to sort of create a game and get an audience for their game. That being said, there may actually be influencers out there who are kind of just using game dev as a way to sort of just get an audience and keep an audience and not really release anything. But we don't want to get into that. So anyways, let's get back to the video.